What's happening? This is Dylan Berry. This is the next installation of NFTs, crypto, metaverse, and the blockchain for the music industry podcast. I have my man, Mr. Scotty Page, the man, the legend from Pink Floyd, Toto Supertramp. He's all over this NFT thing. Also, Mr. Greg Bean is on the show, aka Beanstamatic. He's the founder of Meta Noise, which is a community of a community-driven organization that brings together artists, musicians, and Web3 pioneers. Scotty, how you doing, bro?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be back. This is our 4th episode, right? Number four, Number four, man. Yeah. I'm really excited that we've got my brother Greg here on today. We've been hanging quite a bit lately, and he's been hipping me to all kinds of new stuff. And he's just came off a very successful drop with Nomad Boulevard. I love it. I'm a proud owner of 3 of those beautiful things. Four. That's right. 4.
Oh, that's cool.
That's right. 4. So I'm excited about that. And I figured today would be great to talk with Greg a little bit about what does it take to actually have a successful NFT drop? Because a lot of people think when they drop these things, oh, I'm just going to go put it up on OpenSea and the seas are going to part and they're all going to come buy my stuff and I'm going to make a lot of money. And unfortunately, that's not how this game works. And there's definitely I think there's a very clear process to how this goes down now, we're finding. And I figured Greg would be a great guy to talk to today and hip us all and make us all smarter.
Yep. Thank you for the intro. Coming from, going off the Meta Noise thing is kind of an event process we're trying to start here in Colorado and move beyond. But that's kind of born from going to all these different events and it being so discombobulated and you go there for the connection, but you also go there for the fun. And like, I think the days of just sitting in a conference room all day and just listen to one speaker after another and really not having the interconnectivity is what's bringing up these, this new world. And Scott with Thick NFT, and that's where you go in that direction there. But yeah, in terms of Nomad Boulevard, we had a really successful drop. We sold out in one day. And
tell us about what it is. What is Nomad Boulevard?
So Nomad Boulevard is very cool. So there's an artist named Isabel Lago. For those of you that live in LA or been around Venice, there's these big murals of these gorillas that she's been painting for the last 10 years, essentially her life's work. And that character is called the Nomad. So what we did is, we saw a lot of these communities and the biggest ones that are successful right now or having the most success that people see is the PFPs, the pixelated stuff, the cool animated art. And what our founder, Danny Rosenberg, Hero Machine, did was he found Isabel and he went all over the world and found 15 other top selling NFT artists from, people who are top selling to people who are coming up and did a drop of 3,500. And Isabel handed all of them, all 3,350. And then we had 15 of these other artists do 10 apiece in their derivative and their style. And our goal with Nomad Boulevard is to create a community where artists, collectors, investors are all one. And we're all working together. It's a mutually beneficial organization. And we've had a lot of success. And we have a lot of, people from all around the world. And it's funny, we've been doing these derivative contests in our Discord, right? Just make your own Nomad. And I'd said to Isabel a couple months ago, I said, what's so amazing about this character and how she describes it is the nomad is just the bare human, right? We're all nomads. We're all happy. We're all sad, this, that, and the other. And I said, I think what's going to be so cool about seeing these other artists is when they look at it, it's almost a conduit for creativity of how they see themselves. And it really came out with these 15 other artists. They were all just so very unique to their style of the Nomad. So yeah, that was, we sold out second week of January in one day, like we said. And, now Scott says now the hard work starts, is where do we go from here? So,
yeah. So I think the thing is thinking about it is just, the process. What I've been learning is these things, you don't just put them out there and then try to go sell them. It's really about community. It's about building what they call the white list, which is, getting people onboarded before that, talking to the community. And what I'm finding that I've been hanging a lot in a bunch of these communities is there's usually a voice for that community. There's somebody that's leading all the great drops. There happens to be a voice or two people that really know how to talk to the community and create that value for them, because it's like this crazy teamwork. I mean, that's what I got, so excited about when you brought me into Nomad Boulevard. I started seeing and listening because I'm trying to learn like everybody else here. This is such a new frontier. It's the wild, wild west, but probably one of the most exciting times, I think, in history for the independent content owner, because I mean, this is really, NFTs represent freedom. I've said this before, freedom from an old system. It creates a whole new set of business models. There's a very collaborative sense. And I love the NFT space because the people are so collaborative. I mean, they're just, it is such an uplifting space to be in right now, because I think people see this future. And so, when I saw what you guys were doing, Nomad Boulevard, the communications with the folks, and that's when I thought, when Dylan said, what should we do? I said, I should bring you on so we could talk about the process. So why don't you take us through the Nomad process, what you did to go from zero to, from a what if to a sold out mint, right?
Can I put even more of a frame around that? Let's break that into components, right? Because I think people are having trouble. They can hear a story of how you did one to 1,000, right? But what are the components? You've got a marketing component, you've got a creative component, you have a community component, you have a content creation and output component. Explain your process in relationship to those components.
Well, I think, you've got, there's couple areas there, right? So, your content creation, all that, I mean, that really goes back to everybody's going to be in the right seat of the bus, right? For the bus to go forward, right? You've got your dev team, you've got your, for example, I'm labeled as growth, and you've got your CEO, your team leader, et cetera. But I think where, and Scott kind of touched on this at the beginning, right? A lot of people looking on the outside in, they're just like, oh, well, and you hear this from a lot of like digital artists who are still in like the Web2 space, right? As well, like, what's so special about that? I could make some shit, throw it on OpenSea and make some money. But it's there was a little time period of that, right? When there was just like, okay, what is NFTs? And everyone jumps in. But the majority of people jumping in there were crypto maxis, right? Who've been around for a long time and has been now. But what I was saying, I talked to Scott about this yesterday, is that you have to build a community before you, it's kind of a backwards way of thinking. Whereas beforehand, and when the space really got going, was like there was CyberCongs or whatever, there'd be a drop and then the community would come around it, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas now, okay, for one, it's not just dropping a JPEG, okay? It's more than dropping. Like, you have to have what's going to be your utility, what's going to be your roadmap, right? And then these Discords turn into like I have to leave servers every day because I'm in so many, right? But I have like my Discord's the best. That's a different story. But you have your ones that you go to though, right? And you recognize the same people's names. And the beauty of creating that community is that your mods and your community managers literally come from within there, right? It's the days of like hiring a marketing company to like, I need a community manager, I need this, that, and the other. It's, you develop this community organically, but it has to be cultivated and curated. And that is decentralization in itself, right? Is that right. it will grow from there. But the really hard work is building that community prior to the drop, right? Like, you have to build it. You want to be, for example, this Euphorians project I'm involved in now, right? They asked me to come aboard a couple of weeks ago, and their Discord was at 5,000 people when I came over. So, so this is how I look at the success we have with Nomad, with this collaboration between other communities, right? So, where I was saying, like pay someone constant contact to send out 1,000 emails, you're just hitting whatever, right? Whereas I'm like, now, okay, I've got pre-sale spots. Everybody wants pre-sale spots. And I go, okay, Taffy and Non-Fungible People, they were a great partner with Nomad. I think they'll be a great partner with us. So I go to them, I say, I'm going to give you guys 200 pre-sale spots. Okay. I'm giving you new deliverable value to your shareholders. Okay, this is capital you didn't have before. That is incentive for them to, you're giving back to them, but I'm also, the deliverable value I'm getting is your shareholders into my community, right? And then so you could kind of pick and choose. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. Let's back up a little for the layman. What do you mean shareholders in your community? What is the community? So, you've got Discord community, you've got,
explain pre-sale slots. Why do I care about pre-sale slots?
Yeah. So okay. Yeah. So I guess, I tend to kind of, my vernacular will switch between, my just financial world and this world, but I look at someone who holds a Nomad Boulevard NFT, right? They have put their trust in us, and they've bought into the company, right? Is the way I look at it. So I look at there as a shareholder, and it's your responsibility to deliver value to your shareholder, whether it's an emotional value, financial value, or whatever, right? So I guess holders of the NFT, I'm calling a shareholder, right? But I think that's what I'm referring to there. And go back to what you said before.
So very quickly, then, what you're saying is that I'm just trying to put this so it's understandable to people. Your shareholders are the people that bought your NFT. You're going to another drop or company or crew of shareholders that bought their NFT, and you're giving them pre-sale of your NFT.
Correct.
So you're co-marketing.
Yeah. It's so okay.
In a
so
sense.
The pre-sale thing, it is. So we're calling it collaboration. We're calling it partnership. Like we do Twitter spaces together. But going to this pre-sale thing, right? So everybody's trying to get on all these pre-sale lists. Every drop that has hype going into it, I mean, you want to get on everyone's doing everything they can to get on the list, which is primarily derived through two ways. Is you join their Discord, you have to level up they gamify it within, and or a lot of communities get allotted them, right? So your bigger communities, obviously, like, BAYC, Board Ape Yacht Club, Gutter Cats, like that or whatever, you want to get that community into yours, right? Because you want to get a portion of it. And so that's when I say if I go to them and all their shareholders or their holders, their NFT holders, when the community mod comes in and says, hey guys, Euphorians has offered us 100 pre-sale spots, like I'm going to raffle it off to the community members, then you feel good as a Gutter Cat Gang holder that your community's working for you, and you don't have to, and you're getting a pre-sale spot, right? Because pre-sale is typically 0.05 to under 0.1 Ethereum, right? That's a typical range, right? Mm-hmm. If a project has a lot of hype, because also another thing they do, most projects are doing this now, is they will be a pre-reveal stage, right? So it'll mint, and there'll be like a week of just, you don't actually know what you're getting yet, right? But that's the fun of a mint, right? And the reason, in my opinion, most people are doing that is because you're creating a secondary market, right? Instantly, right? It's being traded. So that can go on a project that's got a lot of hype. You could end up like Hate Beast, for example, went to 9 Ethereum before they revealed, right? The guys who minted paid 0.08. So,
it's just like getting in on the IPO, friends and family of the IPO.
It's exactly. It's almost like it's like a straw scheme, basically, if you want to look at it, right?
Right.
But so everyone wants to get on pre-sale list because unless the project is so bad, it's gonna stay relatively above mint price, right? So even if you want to get out, you're getting value by getting on you want to be in on the mints, right? And so yeah.
Well, that's actually good news. That's a good tip, right? You want to get in on the mints before they're out there, because there's obviously going to be an opportunity for some form of a pop, or you're getting it at such a low price that, especially if it's a good project, it's going to definitely keep it at least at the mint price or go above, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like Bored Ape Yacht Club minted for 0.08. Now they're 100 Ethereum.
All right. So
that's a big number.
Now let me ask you a question. Why would what appears to be a competitor agree to pre-sell your NFT?
Because that's not, we're not competitors. That's the thing.
Why not? See, these are questions I get asked all the time, so I'm asking you.
Yeah, no, totally. I think because you got to look at it's kind of, right now we are still in this, I guess I would say a honeymoon stage, right? But there, it's this, I think it goes a lot back to the decentralization conversation, but there's so much happening and so fast every day. There's enough for everybody here, right? And kind of what I was going back to it is I am delivering you value. You're not having to really sell anything, right? We're raffling it to the community. So you're delivering me value by delivering over your shareholders to us as well. And now we have cross-pollination because rarely one people just are owning one project, right?
Right.
I mean, so like I said, I have to leave Discord servers every time I got a new one because I'm in so many projects. So it's not the mentality at all because everyone's trying to create a new product, right? Like the copycats are just, everyone's like, okay, that's a copycat. I'm not even going to bother with it, right? Everyone, it's this push for innovation constantly. And I'm not taking anything away from you by you raffling my pre-sale spots. If anything, I'm delivering more value that you didn't have before, and I'm giving it to you for free.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like
So
owning different companies. It's like, if you go to that, it's like, oh yeah, I've got shares in this company. And if I can get in early over here through this group. And also the fact is if my group takes it on, that means that there's going to be more possibilities of people, jumping in. So yeah.
But what I'm getting at is there a financial incentive for that person to pre-sell your NFTs?
So it depends. It depends where you're at. If you're going individual or if you're going for a whole community collaboration, right? I mean, personal incentive. Say Dylan, hey, I want you to go out there and hustle the streets and bring on members to our community. 100%. I think I come from a traditional sales world, right? Actually, a very aggressive one. My majority of my career has been in the trucking business and freight brokerage in particular. But the biggest thing I've taken from that, right? And as I always say, the first two rules of economics, I say the second one's the most important, is that people respond to incentive. It doesn't matter what it is, right? You can say everyone's like, yeah, hey, awesome. I love just doing this because I have the love of my heart, which that person will probably do it. But if you have a measurable goal in front of your face, you're going to work a little harder, right? Or you're going to target more people. So yeah, I come from a world where I believe you should 100% be paid for or compensated, whether it's emotionally, physically or monetarily. You should be compensated for working, right? And doing your work. Right. And I think Web3 is that, right? So if I got you out there hustling and selling NFTs, yeah, you should be getting free NFTs from the collection. That's how I feel.
So basically you design whatever incentives you'd like to design for whatever deal you wish to broker, and it's all wild, wild west. There's no standard of like, hey, if you pre-sell, you get 10% of the primary and 1% of the secondary sales or anything like that. It's just whatever you do.
Yeah,
whatever you decide to do.
Exactly. I think Wild Wild West was the right way to say it. Yeah, we're still in the Wild West.
Yeah, no question. I mean, this is the thing about tokenomics, right? That's really I think that is the uniqueness of what makes NFTs different from like Bitcoin. It's interesting. And I got this from Greg the other night. He said, which I thought was fantastic, is if you think about Bitcoin, it's a token and it's a coin and it has value as that. But when you think of NFTs, there's a case to be made that NFTs will be worth more than a single token because of the utility that's built into them. So think of it like Bitcoin with a whole bunch of other stuff that you can add to them, because the programmability of an NFT is what makes it so unique. And what Greg's talking about is, again, this whole idea of community is what drives these things. Because think about it this way. If somebody buys your NFT, they've actually purchased it. Every time you send them an email or you connect with them, probably they're going to have a 99 or 90% open rate, right? Because they're invested into the property, right? It's just like if you're going to buy a stock and you get something from the company, you're going to go look at it because you're a shareholder, right? So this is this whole idea of, when artists, and I'm telling music artists and everybody out there, this is the most important thing that's ever happened in your lifetime as far as your business is concerned. There's no question NFTs are completely changing the landscape, completely changing the business model. And when you finally grasp that this is like a collaborative state, it's like, hey, music guy, why don't you go connect up with this cool art guy and create something new, create a community, but also don't just think about it as the one piece. What is the utility of that piece? What value can you add to that piece so that it keeps going? Because just like Greg, he said, we sold out our mint, then the work starts. Right.
And one thing that people don't usually attribute to this is it's not just the value of the piece, it's the value that surrounds the piece, right?
Yes.
It's the community around it. It's the interactivity of it. It's what it can trigger and do next. And I think people just think, oh, why the hell would someone buy a Bored Ape for $2 million? Well, it's because you crack into a whole community that does other things for you, right?
Even more than that. This is the one I always use real quick to show. When I think Bored Apes, but what they don't realize is when they make 10,000, whatever it is, Bored Apes. Every one of those is unique. But when you buy that Bored Ape, you get the rights to do whatever you want to do with it. I know there's guys right now, I'm talking to their 4 Bored Ape owners. They're creating a television show with their 4 Bored Apes. They're trying to, there's other guys creating clothing lines with their Bored Apes. So think of it this way. If Nike was to go, hey, we're going to give out 10,000 different swooshes. I got a red one, a blue one, a green one with diamonds, one with stars. I buy that. Now I have the rights. I can go create my own shoe line. I can create my own clothing line. I can everything. So it's like owning a piece of the brand. Because I mean, you look at Bored Apes. What is it, like $2 billion now? The market cap on that thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it's crazy, right? And how long? How long have the apes been out? A year and a half? What is it?
Not even. It was last March.
So think about it. A Bored Ape, a single thing came out and is now a $2 billion property since last March. So it's less than a year. And why is it? Is because it's community-driven ownership in a brand. And I would tell artists, if there's any time you can put what the WIFM, which means what's in it for me, when you think about that, the customer, what's in it for them or what's in it for me. And then thinking about it, it's like, what, I sold my mint out. Then what?
I just had this conversation.
You want to think of the then what's that are going on afterwards. That's the power of the community. Because once you own the audience and you own that community, you're set for life. I always say, if you want to survive today, you got to build a hive. You want to survive, you got to build a hive. And that's where we're at.
So this is one of the hardest. It's funny because in all my years in this industry, this is the hardest learning curve that anyone I speak to has, myself included. It's just hard to get your head around some of these things. But once you do, I have people tell me, like, I got a text from a guy this morning said the NFTs are the stupidest thing to happen, in music ever. And I said, really? So, China's on track to do $220 trillion in metaverse NFTs and everything. And you think it's stupid? Maybe you should pay a little attention to what's actually happening. But what I think is really interesting about this is it literally is like the new day trading, right? It's like, what companies can I have stock in? How can I trade that? And only you own a piece of the company in the Bored Apes. It's not just Nike stock where you just trust them to do it. You can take control of your piece of stock and make money yourself.
Model. It's new business model.
You guys touched on so many points there, right? But have you ever heard of the DJ Rack, RAC, per chance? You guys should look him up. So I used to listen to him back in the day. So he's been an NFT since 2017, actually. He had a very interesting post the other day. So he was one of the first, musicians, if not really the first, actually, to put his music as NFTs. He said he made 10 times the amount of money on his first NFT drop than he did on his first 10 albums. Okay. So, and if you look at, look what Blau just did. Blau just raised $20 million for Royal IO. They already did a drop with Nas. You got brands out there like The Hustle, who's got Busta Rhymes and all that. I think music and NFTs is going to be one of the biggest players this year, without a doubt.
It already is right now.
Yeah, okay, it hasn't even like really got going yet,
But here's the problem. Okay, go on. Go ahead. Finish the and then I got a question.
No, you go, because I'll keep going with hands. I got hands all day. It never ends.
I was just going to say, but the problem continues to be for independent musicians that don't have a massive tribe, that want to break in. How do they build that? Because it seems to be, to most people, the same barrier, if not even a bigger barrier than it was to become a rock star. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say yes and no. I think there's also a big refusal to understand, right? It's saying, oh, I just don't understand it.
I used an analogy too that, you know, the people that are telling me this is the stupidest thing to ever happen were probably the ones that thought drum machines would kill the music industry, and oops, pops 90% drum machines, dude. And I'm a drummer, so but you got to embrace the new technology and the new culture trends, or you're going to miss everything.
Yeah, because here's the deal. This thing, listen, NFTs will be engulf everyone's life, every business, every hair salon, every yoga salon, every restaurant, bar, musician, artist, everything is going to be NFT'd, because what it does is it creates value and it creates authorship and ownership. You're going to walk around, you're going to be interacting with NFTs everywhere. And don't forget the NFT, we've got this whole metaverse. We've got this parallel thing going on between the physical world and the digital world. We're right now going from Web 2.0 to 3.0. I think we're going to be in Web 2.50 for a while. We're not going to have the full decentralized web for a while. But this moment in time where everything is going to be NFT'd, because it allows me to have a direct connect interaction with an object, whether it's physical or digital, and create value for it. So in the metaverse, NFTs is the whole commerce, the whole the economy of how that's going to work, because I can go up to this picture and say, wow, I can look at this and I can interact with it and I can buy that picture. And I know that it's the number one, it's the original. There's no middleman. It's a direct to consumer model, wallet to wallet. And it's just, it's crazy. So once you grasp what this means, you start to see that everything is going to be tokenized. And musicians right now, I just read an article, the top category for NFTs right now is music. It was at, I forget the number was, and we don't even hear much about it.
So for people that just tuned in, we're here with Scotty Page from Pink Floyd, Toto, the man, the legend, crypto maniac, Greg Bean, Mr. Beanstamatic here from Meta Noise, which is a community that is driven by bringing artists, musicians, and web pioneers, Web3 pioneers together. So we're here on the podcast talking about the process of creating, launching, dropping, and making money with a successful NFT campaign. So let's go back to process, because I think it's very important.
Yeah.
We touched on, you have to build a community. We touched on one way that you can build a community, which is to do pre-sale, right? What next?
In terms of building the community?
No, let's just even go back a little further. Let's just start. Let's make it step one. The first thing you want to do is you need to figure out what it is you're going to go sell. What is the product?
And what's your story?
What is the story? Yeah. The story sells everything.
Yeah. I think getting the message out of who you are is that is step one, and that's definitely a thing that's overlooked, right? Because right now this whole world, it's kind of funny because I didn't use my Twitter account for about 10 years before July this year. And it's actually just side note, I'm so happy about Twitter has finally found its platform. After all these years, they found it. It's NFTs. And they've they're really, with their new CEO and everything. But, I've been so in the Instagram phase for everything right now. And a lot of these artists are Instagram, but your avenue to craft your message is Twitter. And it's going so fast, right? So that's the first challenge. How do I portray my message through Twitter posts, right? Second is, I think Twitter Spaces have become a very, very important thing, like if not the most important, right? I think a lot of the NFT space kind of was born as in its current state in Clubhouse, right? Last year. And, I think it has now migrated to Twitter. It's not dead. Clubhouse is still huge, right? But it's different, right? And with Twitter, it's a little more curated, right? You can't have a million people yelling at one time. You have a host and you have a stage, and that's kind of where you start crafting your message, right? And you do that by having co-spaces with other communities. And you know, like a huge success we had with Nomad Boulevard is we were doing spaces going into the pre-sale, and we're still doing two a week every week, but going into the sale, we were doing spaces 3, 4, 5 times a week. And we would do it with another community, right? And we'd let the other community highlight their community and their message, what do we have to offer, and then we'd highlight ours. And we would do a POAP. So for those of you who don't know, a POAP is proof of attendance and participation. It's an NFT, right? And that you're going to start seeing these every part of your life. When you go to a football game, Ticketmaster was doing them this year, a concert, a rugby game, whatever, right? That's your, you know, back in when I was a kid, I used to put all my football tickets in this jar and save them. And you know, this is your new saving your ticket. I was there. And so in those spaces where we had crafting our message, we would have all our artists there every day. And then you'd have people raise their hand, say, hey, I'm an artist. I'm an up and coming artist. Like, what advice do you have for me, Wes? Like, how did you do it? And I think you enable this ability that you've never had before, right? That the kid who's sitting in his mom's basement, you know, drawing and making music or whatever, and said, man, I would love to talk to Dylan about like this experience. And all of a sudden Dylan's on the Twitter space. I raised my hand. I could talk to Dylan. You know what I mean?
Right.
That type of, you know, interpersonal connectivity and how you craft your message from there, then, you know, people will start going to the messages they want to be a part of, right? And it's everyone together.
So let's give an example of what was your message? What was your elevator pitch for your last drop?
For Nomad Boulevard is that we're a community of artists and collectors and thinkers. But really, you know, the goal of Nomad Boulevard at its core is to highlight, obviously, Isabel's work and the creativity that comes from it. And through that is with all these other artists on the drop, right? You know, you've had lots of PFP projects. I would say we're the first PFP project that is art.
What is PFP for those that don't know?
Oh yeah, sorry, profile picture, right? So
right.
so Bored Ape Yacht Club is a PFP, right? You know, most of my collection is PFPs, right? But so I guess anything that's not a one of one, right, is kind of a PFP, right? It's multiple, and so yeah, so that was the message, is that we want to, you know, highlight already accomplished artists that are, you know, on their way up, and then artists that are breaking in, right? And group it all together. And we've like, what has come from that is just actually incredible. I mean, we still have these spaces all the time, and the artists talking to the community, like everyone's in the Discord together. It's pretty amazing. I don't know, do you guys, yeah, go.
So what people don't understand, one other thing, I just want to throw this out real quick. What a lot of people don't understand is this isn't just, you don't have to be famous to make this work. This is not about being a big star or whatever. This gets right down to the people power. And I gave this example, and I remember before I went to a meetup just recently, and there was a girl who's a photographer. She's 20 years old. Nobody knows who she is. She's just up and coming. 6 months ago, she started getting into NFTs. She is now funding her entire livelihood off of her photographs and NFTs. And what I loved about it is she took a small percentage of every drop and gave it to her community place. And she has a community center, because she wanted to support them. And she said to me, she said in her thing the other day, she gave them 2.5 ETH. That's like incredible. So this is an artist that nobody knows. She just got in and started doing it, building a little bit of community, getting people to buy in, starting with the friends and family, getting that going. People start getting in. And then it's just started to grow enough that she's making a complete living off of it. And she's giving $10,000 to her local community. That's incredible power.
Yeah. So Scotty, let's talk about you. You're in a band with Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction.
Yep.
Norwood Fisher from Fishbone. Iconic bands. You know, LA royalty. You've been in Pink Floyd, of course. You've got I almost said paraphernalia from Pink Floyd.
I got tons of paraphernalia from
memorabilia. You probably have some paraphernalia too.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing in this space?
Oh, I've got a whole. I'm right now. I'm in the midst of doing a whole drop that I'm building on, and I've enlisted my brother Greg here to come in and help me kind of think through all the tokenomics. So with my company, Think NFT, we've actually put a team. I have my NF Tree, who was on our show, has actually assembled 4 other incredible analysts, thinkers in this space, and they spend all day in the drops and all this stuff to really start thinking about what's possible with the tokenomics of these things by looking at what's going on. So I've got a couple drops. I'm actually working right now with Arthur J. Williams, who's a very famous painter, interesting guy. He comes out, his kind of one of his claim to fame is he's the guy that counterfeited the $100 bill. And you know nice how hard work. That is. That's
I want to
crazy,
be friends with that guy.
Yeah. So he ended up spending a little time for that, but he's come out and he's an incredible painter, 3 galleries around the country. And anyway, he's taking my drop. So I'm taking a lot of my Floyd stuff. I'm creating art. So he's taking right now a bunch of my photos, my stuff, and creating new pieces of art. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm getting ready to, we're in the middle of a drop, is I did a 10-minute piece of music. I shot 150 hours of Pink Floyd video and stuff, but I'm creating an art piece. It's not like there'll be no dialogue. There's not going to be any songs, music from the Floyd thing. It's this whole piece, but using the imagery of these events, and I'm putting it into it's a 10-minute piece, which I'm then cutting up into 1 to 2 second NFTs. So the entire piece will cut up, give me about 300 or so plus NFTs. Nobody will be able to see the full drop. Each one of these NFTs stands on its own as a cool little art piece. But once the drop is done, everybody will then get airdropped that bought the original NFT will get the full version, but each one of those full versions will also be unique. And then there's a whole puzzling thing that goes on to it. So the idea is I'm trying to take sort of the mystery of what Floyd and Storm have always done, right? That kind of unique thing that they had with Storm being kind of the 5th member of Floyd. I always, because he was the guy that came up with all the crazy graphics and designs, but trying to maintain that kind of sensibility where it's really more a piece of art that I'm starting to put it together, as opposed to like, this isn't documentary. This isn't anything else. It's like, how do I take these unique, crazy pictures, photos, things that I have, and mash them together into a Man Ray Warhol kind of a trippy piece of art that everybody can own, and then build community upon that.
So I think that use cases are important, and it's good to hear what you're doing, because I know you're in the thick of it every single day. I mean, obviously we have a podcast about it together. So a couple of things, Mr. Beanstamatic, we covered how to build a community, all those different things. Can you put it into perspective really quickly? And then I want to move on to the next bucket. How active do you have to be in all of those groups? I mean, it sounds like a full-time job, 18 hours a day to be on Twitter and Discord, you know?
It's actually, so it's been coined, right? Some people call it degen, some people call it degen, right? Which is essentially short for degenerate, right? And I'm definitely in that category. It's funny. My former business, I've gotten a great place, where it's, I've got a good team handling it, and I feel like I'm working 10x what I used to work, right? And I've come from a 7-day a week, and it's literally, it's funny. You go on Twitter, speaking of Twitter Spaces at 2-3 a.m., there is many Twitter Spaces discussing NFTs and mental health. Right? Because you can't, like, it's nonstop. It is nonstop. I mean, yes, it is 18, 20 hours a day. And I literally have to like say, okay, dude, you got to shut it down. You got to shut it down. Right.
It's almost like gambling in a way too, the way that it's.
Well, it has that ability because everybody lifts everybody's boat, right? It's one of these things where the whole community can lift. So it creates this power. That's crazy.
How does the whole community lift? Because when you get something.
I just want to touch on the gambling comment real quick, because yes. So a lot of guys who the people who've really been, that I've most connected with and been like in the space the longest, you would say, right? Are people who've been in crypto since the early days, right? I set up my Coinbase account in like 2013. The majority of these people, right, are, we all love like online gambling, and there's a lot of pro poker players involved in the space, and there's a lot of, daily fantasy sports players in the space. That's not a coincidence at all, right? Yeah. Because what those, what internet gambling brought was like, holy shit, I can go out and make become a millionaire on my own, right? Like I don't need to, hustle at a company for 30 years for 40 grand a year or whatever. Like it is possible. So that was almost like a kind of underlying decentralization happening, right? And then this happens. So yeah, naturally there's a lot of professional gamblers in the space.
You said that just like a true gambler. I can make $1 million. You didn't mention I can also lose it.
Oh yeah, you can. Listen,
I think the cool thing about NFTs is that, it is an appreciating asset, but it's based on perception, right? So, what happens if you wake up tomorrow and Bored Apes hasn't done their job and hasn't brought enough value, and all of a sudden nobody gives a shit?
Right.
Then what? You're sitting on a $4 million picture, and what do you do now?
It's a company. You think of it like anything. It's a business, right? And if the business fails, it fails, just like any investment you would make in those things, right? And again, this is where it gets a little tricky from, is this an investment? Is it a piece of art? Is it, this is the gray area that we're in right now. But I got to tell you, I haven't ever collected, and I just started getting into collect because I've always been on the other side of it, the thinking of it that way. So I'm pretty savvy in that area. But this piece of like collecting and now getting in, and even Greg's helping me get some stuff, dude. It's very addicting. Yeah, I see now. I totally understand the value proposition of why you want to have these things. It's crazy.
It's going back to the perception comment, Dylan. I mean, isn't that if you think about that objectively, right? That's how a free market in general it functions, right? But that's how the stock market functions. Like look at like the stock market, like these stocks trading at 3,000 times earnings, right? That's not real, right?
Yeah.
But it's the perception that like, okay, I think Elon Musk like is from another planet. Like this guy, whatever it is, I'm buying the stock because I'm buying into him, right? And that's what all it is, right? Is that, have you guys ever watched the show Billions?
I watched a little bit, but I got caught up on other ones.
Yeah, so Billions, it's actually based on Stevie Cohen, and Billions, they use this term edge, right? And back then, which is kind of the same time Bitcoin came up, right? It was a trading, it's not legal, but it's a trading of information, right? So you're buying into information. You're buying into information, into a roadmap of information with an NFT, right? In terms of that segment of it, right? So yeah, it is perception, right? Like these guys were trying to trash Bored Ape like a month ago. These crypto funks guys, they hate the punks. I'm a punk, by the way, and they hate the punks. Now they went after it, saying that Bored Ape Yacht Club were Nazis, and then Farouk doxed them, and the guy was Jewish, and you know what I mean? It's like ridiculous. But the beauty of this message of this is where the message you can only craft it. Like there's no Fox News or CNN to craft it how they want to craft it, right? It's a pure free market, right? And with a pure free market and so many independent actors, right? The bullshit gets discovered very quickly, right?
Very quickly.
It doesn't let you find the rug pulls, you find the, you're like, so like what's very important right now, for example, this project Euphorians I'm involved in, one thing I said to them that I really, really liked was that their team was fully doxed. Okay. Now that's a very important thing after, the ICO stuff, 2017. For those people who don't know, the ICOs was an initial coin offering, and it was essentially if you think we're in the Wild West now, that shit was 10x of what's going on right now. But
yeah,
the ICO scam has a new name, the NFT rug pull. It's the same exact thing, right? There's no difference. And so now it's like, now that the market, and it's funny to say that 7-8 months down the road, I mean, NFTs have been around, you can take them all the way back to 2013 and 14 with the original Bitcoin ones, but let's just say the market has really been here since 2020. And, that we say the market's matured, it hasn't, but it's moving so fast that bullshit's getting discovered so quickly. So now people want to see a doxed team, and Bored Ape Yacht Club doxing themselves last week was a big thing, actually, in my opinion.
So what is a dox?
So dox just means that, so a lot of these projects or whatever, it's, you don't know the actual name of the person, right? You don't know the actual identity. It's just, Dylan and his punk picture or whatever, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of that is, and this is a problem with DAOs, right? DAOs are very undefined right now because people don't want to dox themselves. People don't want to dox themselves right now because of the laws surrounding cryptos and taxes and NFTs are so undefined right now. They're so unregulated. So they don't want their name and face out in the public for like, so when someone does dox themselves, they say, okay, if this guy's willing to dox himself and steal all our money, that, you know, like the SEC and IRS has got his picture right here, right? There's no running from this one. So that's an important thing right now that people are looking at, and people are researching into the people they're buying into.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of concerns about things, you know, obviously owning SmashHaus and having a company with a community of music makers. You think about how can you serve them? You know, could you serve them by helping them with advances against future royalties and these sort of things? What people aren't really thinking about, and I worry, you know, I quite frankly worry for Blau in this, is what the FCC is going to do when you are not an accredited investor or trading company or whatever.
Yeah.
They could let you make $1 trillion and in 10 years just level everybody. You know, it's like, it's still the Wild West. It's still like, you know, weed shops in California. You know, it's like, yeah, you can get one, you can make a lot of money, but you're kind of at the whim of, you know,
because and that's a big problem with I personally think that crypto and NFT will literally lead to the rewriting of the US tax code, right? And that's why but you're getting it. So what you're talking about too is the difference between like a DAO, as you know, people know it, for people, that's a decentralized autonomous organization where, so yeah, if that was based in the United States, if you're incorporated in the US as a DAO, the only way to really make that function legally at the present moment is that everyone is an accredited investor and they all have their own LLC. That's why everyone's setting up in the Cayman Islands, right?
And Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico is you know, in the 3 like square miles you can live in is
I've been looking for houses, you know.
There's a huge contingent in there in Central America. Portugal, 0% tax on crypto. And I really hope, and part of me does kind of believe that the US lawmakers will come to their senses at some point soon on this, because the US is really falling behind in this category, right? Like Europe and the rest of the world is way ahead. And it's because of our lack of undefined regulation, right? But like Blau, it's not a DAO though, right? You know,
well, I'm convinced that the FCC is going to have some issues unless they really do a lot of legal work now. But I don't want to get in. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, boy, is it.
With your, let's save that for a whole other podcast. I think
that's right now, podcast.
I really, you know, we've gone pretty deep into the weeds on a bunch of things. And I think I want to dial it back and really get to how do I create and launch a successful NFT campaign? And let's try to bullet point it.
Yeah, boom. First, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5.
First thing, concept development and what is your content going to be? Number 2 is, how are you going to build your community? Where and who can you partner with to scale it? What is step 3?
Yeah, so you just went to envision who we are, community. Step 3 is starting to produce your product, right? Creating it, finding, you know, are you going to be a one of one? So if you're creating a community, probably not a one of one. But if you're going to be say you want to do one of ones, so for super rare, is positioning themselves as a marketplace that is only one of ones, right? Are you going to be dropping on OpenSea? Do I need to apply to OpenSea? You can't just go on there and click the button and go up, right? Where do I want to put my product, right? Foundation, OpenSea, super rare, Coinbase is coming, which I think is going to be a massive thing for the marketplace. And then it's, you know, okay, so now I've chosen, this is when we're launched. Choose a launch date. What date are we on? People want to know when the mint date's going to be. What's going to be the price of the mint, okay? How many is going to be in the collection, right? Do you have future plans for a second collection? If so, when? Some people want to know that. Are you going to have staking? Are you going to have a token behind you? There's so many different things here. So yeah, it's like you got idea. Who are you? What's your vision? Okay. These are my avenues. I'm going to build the community. Let's start producing. What are we going to produce? And then also behind that, what is my future utility? Like, and also another thing, I want people to be very, like, they need to think about this. Don't guarantee all these things on the website, right? Don't say, hey, in March, we're going to have our tokens, they're going to be $3 a pop on Uniswap. And, we're going to have this event on this date, right? It's this isn't our roadmap. These are our goals based out over several quarters. We want to do this by Q2, right? But, and people get so caught up right now as well. And this is going so fast. I need to rush out my product. I need to rush the drop. I need to get it out.
First adopter,
a really good friend of mine, a guy named Keith Butta, his name's Keith Candy on Twitter, and him and Gabe Weiss got this Party Animals project. Me and him have talked about this a lot, is that we're still so early, right? This is like finding Google before Google found Google. And you don't need a rush, because you only get one chance. You get one chance because it is going that fast. If you rush and put out a piece of shit, you're done, right? Yeah. So take your time. The majority, I say to people in the circles of life we're in, this is normal conversation, right? Do you think there's 400 million people in this country? How many of those people do you actually think know what a Bored Ape is right now, right? For us, it's the biggest thing on the planet.
I think there's a lot of people that might have heard of it, but still don't know why or what it's doing or why it's successful. Yeah, it's like, what? Huh?
Yeah.
So I got Greg Bean on here, Bean Stamatic, founder of Meta Noise, and also Mr. Scotty Page, the man, the legend. This is the NFT, metaverse, blockchain, and crypto podcast for the music and entertainment industry. Thank you for listening to it. Let's start to wrap the show up by maybe sharing some resources. We covered a lot of stuff, and even in that last statement, you threw out stuff like staking and, are you going to create your own coin? These are things you need to kind of know about if you're getting into this space, because they're instruments of your drop or your business.
It's like anything else. Listen, let me just it's like anything else. You have to go to school and learn what's going on. And the best thing is you don't have to go to a university. You got it right in front of you. It's on your phone. You've got Google and YouTube. I try to tell you, the first thing is you got to go put 30 to 40 hours of time in going into those places and start listening. Type into YouTube, what is an NFT? How do I create an NFT? What is staking? Just start learning these terms, because what happens is, and head up and start going to these meetups, because I'm telling you, once you grasp it, it takes a while. Like every day, it's like I'm learning. And now you start to get over that hump, because there is a learning curve for this, because it doesn't make logical sense to most people why this works, why this is important. And again, this is this is the people's movement right now. What's so fascinating, this isn't owned by the big celebrities and the big stars. It's like the people that care and building the community, just like Nomad community. When I went in there and just listening to the people in that community just blew my mind. And that's why I said, dude, I got to buy some of these, not because so much of the piece of art for me was because of the community where they were going. So it's all about getting involved. Go to those Twitter spaces, type hashtag NFT, start following every company you possibly can, and just start absorbing it. Write in how to make a successful music NFT, right? And start learning as much as you can.
And go to Coinbase and buy $10, $20 of crypto and see what it does. Go buy a couple NFTs. Go, see how it kind of works, because that's really like the only way to kick test the market on the consumer side. How do you know what to sell and to who if you don't even know what buying's like?
And if, as an artist, to me, this is the most exciting thing, because I can now create so much value for my community. I can create something that the community now can benefit from too and make money off of. It's not like I'm just delivering a record and they get to listen to my record. And maybe I can take my album and I could go to the used record store and get, 50% of what I paid for it. That's not what this game is about. So as an artist, it's like always thinking about how am I going to grow my community? And what's beautiful is it doesn't take millions of people. That was our old model, right? We had to go wide, right? And get millions and hope that you could get a few. Now it's the opposite. It's go narrow, go small, and kind of grow from that point out. And it's a totally different way of thinking. And if the more you can start thinking about how can I mash cool idea together? What value can I add to my token? Remember, NFTs are programmable. One NFT can unlock another NFT. So it's really just starting to understand the capabilities of how I can create an experience for the people around me. And I keep telling this story. My friend Beebs, she says basically there's about 125 people in her community, and she lives off of that community. This was before NFTs. So it's really about that, building that hive that gets around your thing and then scaling from there. And NFTs just take this concept and blow it through the roof, right? It's crazy.
Yeah. What's the, I always forgot the 100 fans.
1,000 true fans. It's that
1,000 true fans. The 1,000 true fans model is, we actually talk about it internally in Nomad a lot, and you brought it up on the Twitter space that night you came on. Mm-hmm. That's very, very true, right? And even if you in a community of, like, say you got 3,000 holders in a Discord, you can even say that's the 100 people, right? But I think that whole concept of, and it's really in my head based off the law of, like, exponential numbers in return, the 1 to 2, the 2 to 4, right? If you just that group of people, they all become out on their own too, right? Pushing, you're getting your educational message out there and whatever. And in terms of going back to Dylan, like, how to get involved, that's the beauty of this as well. We've been talking about this whole time. Just go in one of these Discords, ask questions. People want to answer them, right? Like, there's a huge part of this movement that is, we want to onboard the public. It's not just a bunch of guys holding, monkey JPEGs sitting in the corner having fun with sweatshirts on, right? Like, that is part of it, but part of it for me personally, and they're like Bright Moments Gallery in Venice, why I admire them so much is because that is a huge part of what they're trying to do here, is educate and onboard the public. So don't be afraid to ask questions, where people are afraid to ask questions generally in life, right? You are afraid to go into a room where you feel like everybody knows everything and you don't, right? You're afraid to ask that question. Whereas these communities, it's like, people, that's why people become so, like, the love for it in that collaboration that we've been talking about, because you get that back when you go in there. You're not made to feel like you don't know anything. You're like, okay, like, let's start from the beginning. There's so many people on the, I went through with Scotty on his first MetaMask drop on his phone, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's like, I'm happy to sit on the phone and sit with you. I've had people come over to my house. If anything, just want to educate the planet on what the planet is going to be.
Because the people in this space realize this movement is so big. This is the people's movement where we take control again. I mean, it's like crazy. It's like, I don't even want to be paid in US dollars anymore. I want to be paid in crypto. All my stuff comes in, and I say, give my Ethereum address, pay me in Ethereum, right? When I can. Obviously, some people can't because they're not doing it, but that's the game now, because basically it separates us from the old system. And this is a massive movement. And people don't realize too that NFTs basically is a form of currency. There's bartering going on. I'm like, I go to my gig, these people say, hey, will you come play my show? And I say, well, how much? And I say, pay me in drops, right? So pay me in an NFT instead of a US dollar. That's a trippy thing, right? That's a crazy, crazy model. And so this is where the people get to take over now. This is like, and if you think about it, NFTs are just, it's going to make cryptocurrency just blow up more, because people can understand, hey, I own my favorite YouTube stars, crazy jump off this freaking thing into a bowl of cereal or something, right? It's crazy. It's just an insane new bartering model. But what's great is the secondary market. And if you own it, there's value that's created by it, and it can be bought and sold and traded. Every musician out there, get in there, go spend that 30 to 40 hours. I guarantee you'll be a happy camper if you do.
And you know what, in all this stuff that I do, right? I mean, I do SoundCloud radio. I've weekly radio show for 8 years, interviewing celebrity artists, independent artists, everybody in between. I get this, hey man, you're just jumping on the bandwagon. I'm like, you're goddamn right I am. You know why? If old world establishment is your thing, cool. I'm all about shaking it up and disrupting. I've been a disruptor since day one. So yeah, I'm jumping on the bandwagon to unbolt the bandwagon so that I can run my own shit, because that's what I've done my whole life anyway.
Freedom.
So I might as well make it official.
I mean, but think about it. To me, I always say this.
The new punk rock, man.
NFTs represent freedom. for me.
Yeah.
And when I say it's like the most freedom thing that could be, because it's completely direct to consumer, no middleman. I can go do it. I can build my own stuff. I can have it. I can trade. It's portable. I'm not stuck to a bank. I mean, this is like insane freedom. And what this represents is so big that once people start to grab, and it's picking up now, the steam is picking up like crazy. Because, NFT LA, we were going to do 3 days. Now we have 4 days because there's so much interest in this thing, right? And because it's the kind of thing that everybody can kind of win in this game if you learn. Now, obviously there's you buy stupid stuff, you do stupid things, you're going to get pounded. It's a free market. It's all about educating yourself and don't get caught up in scams. And yes, there's things that are going to be there, but at the same time, I'm seeing more people changing their lives because of this than I've ever seen. Even that girl who's a photographer, making her full living doing photography every day and also helping her community at a low level. She's not somebody with big marketing. She doesn't have that, because this thing here, dude, Twitter is a 24-hour cocktail party and you get to go anytime and start hanging out because it's all about relationships, right? It's like, dude, I want to go party. I can just go, I'm in there and I'm in the space. And I'll tell you, I feel like I'm 30 years old again because I haven't been this excited about something. And it's not so much about the kind of the opportunity, that it's just the community spirit in this thing is infectious. I came out of DecentralCon. I was going to go for 2 days. I ended up having to stay the whole 5 days because the lift, the energy, the excitement, because, I always say this, it's all about the ride to me. So if I'm having a good ride, I'm winning, right? It's not so much about the outcome. It's about being in the community. But yeah, those that figure it out now are going to just rise like crazy. I mean, it's such an exciting time. New business model.
We got to wrap it up. If anybody wants to learn more about these things, please reach out to us. Scott Page, what's your Instagram?
I am Scott Page. That's everywhere. That's my thing. So just
so hit Scotty, follow him up. Mr. Beanstamatic, where can they find you?
I'm beanstamatic.eth on Twitter and Instagram. So hit me up, send me a DM. I'm happy to
send him some ETH.
Send him some ETH.
Ethereum.
You can find me at Dylan Berry Official on everything. Also SmashHaus, if you want to learn more about what we're doing in the NFT space. We're doing free NFTs basically for creators, for musicians. And it's mint on demand. It's going to be pretty interesting. And I'm going to talk to you about that, Mr. Greg Bean, pretty soon too, because we got some pretty cool stuff coming up. And my name is Dylan Berry and Scott Page. Thank you very much. Greg Bean, Beanstamatic. Thank you very much. This is the NFT, Crypto, Metaverse, and Blockchain for the Music Industry podcast. Please join us next time. And we thank you. Send us all your ETH.
Send us the ETH. Let's go.
Please send us ETH. We love it.
All right. See y'all later.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for everything, man.
All right. See you guys.